Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are digging into a discovery that doesn't just add a new chapter to the story of humanity. It basically rips out the first few pages and makes us start all over again.
You know, for decades, this is a story we've all been told. It's the one you learned in school, right? First, we figure out farming. That lets us stop wandering around and build villages. And only then, with food in our bellies and a roof over our heads, do we have the luxury of developing complex stuff like art and organized religion. It's a neat, logical story. Makes perfect sense.
But what if that simple, common-sense story is completely and utterly wrong? What if the real engine behind civilization wasn't a full stomach, but a search for meaning?
So back in the 1990s, archaeologists working on a pretty remote hilltop in southeastern Turkey started to uncover something that just defied all expectations. Something that was about to shake our understanding of the ancient world to its very core.
12,000. That's how old this site is. 12,000 years. Just let that number sink in for a moment. This is a time when we thought humans were just living in these small, scattered bands of hunter-gatherers, basically living day to day with nothing more advanced than stone tools.
To put that number in perspective, this place is a mind-boggling 7,000 years older than Stonehenge. It predates the Great Pyramids by 7,500 years. We're not just talking about ancient history here. This is almost unimaginably ancient.
Okay, so the site is called Göbekli Tepe. And here's the crazy part. It wasn't a city, it wasn't a village. There's no evidence of people actually living there day to day. No houses, no hearths, none of it. It seems to have been this huge ceremonial center, essentially the world's very first temple, a cathedral on a hill built by hunter-gatherers.
And this was no simple little shrine either. We're talking about enormous, T-shaped pillars made of limestone, some of them 18 feet tall, weighing up to 20 tons. They were dragged from a quarry and arranged in these huge, complex circles. And they're covered in these intricate carvings of animals. And, get this, the people who built it hadn't even invented pottery yet, let alone metal tools. It's just staggering.
And that brings us to the great paradox of Göbekli Tepe. I mean, think about it. To build this thing, you'd need hundreds of workers, a shared plan, some serious project management, all the signs of a complex society. But the people who built it were supposed to be simple nomads. How did they coordinate all that? Where do they even get the food to feed a workforce that large?
Well, this incredible puzzle leads to a revolutionary new idea. The very existence of Göbekli Tepe is forcing us to think about a great reversal, the idea that we might have the whole story of civilization turned completely upside down.
So the old theory, the one we all learned, was farming comes first, which leads to villages, which then eventually leads to organized religion. But Göbekli Tepe suggests the complete opposite. What if the desire to gather, to worship, to create something meaningful together, what if that came first? What if that belief system was the very spark that forced us to build, to settle down, and ultimately to invent farming?
I mean, it makes a certain kind of sense, right? To build a temple this big and complex, people have to stick around in one place. And to feed all those workers, you can't just rely on whatever you happen to hunt or find that day. You need a reliable, predictable food supply. The enormous challenge of just building Göbekli Tepe might have been the very problem that pushed us to invent agriculture and create the world's first settlements.
As one of the lead archaeologists put it, and I think this just says it all, it suggests that it was the desire to worship together that may have sparked the invention of civilization itself. So the engine of all this change wasn't just about survival. It was about a shared human need to find meaning.
And that really is the biggest takeaway here. What this discovery tells us is that our origin story is so much more profound than we ever gave it credit for. It wasn't just about the practical stuff, like getting food and shelter. It was about the abstract, the spiritual. Our massive leap forward into civilization, it seems, was launched not just by our hands or our stomachs, but by our minds, and maybe even our souls.
Göbekli Tepe is proof that one discovery, one site buried under a hill, can completely shatter what we thought was settled fact. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we were this wrong about the very beginning of everything, what other incredible parts of our shared story are still out there, just waiting to be found, waiting to be rewritten?